Hey guys, it's Carolyn. Welcome back to the podcast, and I'm very excited for today's guest. Is Suzanne Castle. Dr. Suzanne Castle is an award-winning keynote speaker, a dynamic business strategist, and transformational coach, known for helping ambitious women break through barriers, build extraordinary lives and businesses. Welcome to the podcast, Suzanne. I'm so glad you're here.
I am so thrilled to be here. I love the sign behind you. I love the name of the podcast. We just have already mojo making happening. I can feel it already across the vibes. So,
That's awesome. So, before we get into some actionable tips and kind of some of your methods,
yeah.
tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are now.
Oh, girl, I fell into my work, literally. So I used to be an entertainer. And so all the things, all the stages, all the places that you think. And I always wanted to win a Tony Award. I spent all of my childhood working towards that goal. And as in my late 20s, fell literally on the stage. My partner dropped me, and that was it. My career was over. My dancing and musical theater career was over. And so I had to pivot. We can use that word again, right? Like COVID's passed long enough. We can talk about pivoting again. I had to pivot and did a season, really dove in with education, master's, doctorate, all the things, trying to figure out how to bring about creativity with decision making. Like how does that work? And so while I was doing that, people would call and say, "Hey, you were in Cats. Would you come speak at my women's luncheon?" And literally, I fell into a speaking business, and from there grew into my coaching empire now, which really is a lot of consulting for business owners, small business owners specifically, and shepreneurs to really help them make decisions quicker, faster, more strategically, and effectively using brain science and creativity. So when I say I fell into my business, I literally fell into my business. I wasn't strategic. And so I'm trying to help people be more strategic along the way to not make the mistakes that I did.
Yeah, I think every business owner has a story kind of like that. They kind of
Right.
thought they were going one way and ended up going another, and we all figure it out.
That's
Okay,
right.
so I'm very excited to learn more about your sparkle factor. What is it,
Oh,
and how can we use it?
so the sparkle factor is really my trademarked method. And we start with in a sparkle factor kind of universe reality. What you want to be is everyone, you just named it, everyone has this kind of nugget of something inside of them, right? Their story was one way, something happened. Now they're trying to live into a different reality from life to business, whatever that might be. And for a lot of us, that's just a dim little light. And we're not really sure what to do with that. So the sparkle factor is my way of helping you unlock that. So it's through mindfulness training to help you boss your brain. Most people, their brains are just like a toddler on the couch eating potato chips. They're not doing anything with it to actively help them. So what this does is it really takes you through a process to really start with your brain and your mind and helping you how to unlock it. Then we teach you how to make decisions effectively and more and quicker for your specific magic in the world, if you want to say that. And then how to help it make sustainable. Because let's face it, any method, anything that you're doing in the world, for all of you listening, any new thing you're trying feels really good for a little bit, but making it sustainable is the harder work. So the sparkle factor is really a method to take you through all those three different aspects and make sure that you make it your own to help you shine a little brighter and honestly to make life and business a little easier along the way. Because I don't know about you, Carolyn, but things feel hard. And
Yep.
I'm always I like to effort into being lazy. Let's put it that way. So I want things to be easier for me. And when things are easy, I don't put as much time and intensity around that. And we have a lot of intensity in our world. And so anything that can make that a little lighter, a little easier helps me make a better decision quicker, faster. And I think helps my kiddo, helps Prince Charming. And so there's all these ways to do that in the world. And I just think that we have done a disservice because we really haven't taught people how to do that. And the brain science is constantly changing, so that's some of it. But we also don't teach people how to think effectively about decisions. And so I'm trying to change that narrative.
So, what are some key things that you need to do to change your brain to think effectively?
Well, so I like to think of it like this. So most of us are acting, but we don't really do much more than acting. Okay. So I like to teach people this kind of matrix, which is okay, what am I thinking? And that thought immediately creates some kind of feeling. I'm successful. This is hard. I'm not enough. Everyone's more successful than me. Whatever that thought is, whatever the thinking about what you're doing creates some kind of thought and feeling. And when you're there in that kind of lane, then your actions follow. Because if something feels hard, it's hard. right? It's just hard. That's just the reality of the thing. And if something's feeling hard, then your actions reflect that. And there's a lot of resistance that comes up with that. Maybe you don't put as much time and attention. Maybe you'd rather, hang out on Netflix eating ice cream because it just feels hard. You're not looking for the right thing. So what I'm trying to do and what I teach is the first thing that you need to do is say, okay, my reality is this. Like, here's what's happened without any kind of emotion. It's not a judging statement. Like, I didn't make my metric, whatever that is. Then when I don't make my metric, what's the first thought I think? Then what is that feeling that comes up when I think that? Now, how is that helping my action, right? And the balloons go off because that's that action piece. Like, we want to celebrate, right? But you either are or are not based on what you're thinking and feeling. And if you're not constantly evaluating where you are, then all of that goes awry and you just show up every day and you do the same thing and you wonder why nothing's getting traction and nothing's working. And most of us wait way too long to really think about that and evaluate where we've been, where we're going, and how it could look differently. But most of us aren't saying to ourselves, wow, when I think that, this is how I show up. And if you think you're wonderful, then you show up wonderfully and your actions show up wonderfully and you get different motion.
And so, this, what's the science behind that? So you can change everything just by the way you think.
So it's the field of neuroplasticity. So in my work, I'm certified neuroscience coach, NLP, all those, who cares? All right. But what we need to know, what we're learning about the brain is every single day you can rewire your brain. Most people don't know that. Like, well, the way I am is the way I am is the way I am. Well, then you've already created that reality. But what it means is whatever you're thinking and doing creates a groove. Think like a record, right? Creates a groove. And if you do that and you think that and you say that over and over and over, the groove gets deeper and deeper and deeper. So you want deep grooves on things that are helping you move forward in the world. And you want light grooves for things that aren't helping you. And so your brain is like constantly on and listening to you.
Yes.
So are you a pet owner by chance?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you talk to yourself like you talk to your pets?
Sometimes.
Okay. So here's the example I like to give. So I get up in the morning, take a shower, getting dressed. And now for Marlon Brando and Tinkerbell, my rescued boxers, I'm always like, oh, your face is so squishy and cute. Your belly's so cute. But it's hard for me to stare in the mirror and go, oh, my jowls are so squishy and cute. My belly's so cute and amazing. But so what we're saying internally, whether we're saying it out loud or not, your brain is listening all the time. That should terrify everyone. Mm-hmm. So every negative thought, every positive thought, everything you say out loud, when you're mad at somebody, all of that your brain is responding to, and your brain can only respond with the information you're giving it. So if you're giving it information that what I'm doing isn't working, I'm not enough, I don't know what to do, everybody's better than me, it's taking me too long, your brain's like, you're right. And then it's going to find the information to confirm that, and it's going to make you pay attention to that confirmation. And so when you're not saying my belly's so cute, then your brain is like, you're right, it's not. And you know why it's not. It's because you eat ice cream all the time, but wasn't that good ice cream? Let's go get some more ice cream. And since we're already eating ice cream, we can start again tomorrow. So let's just lose 3 hours of, our day streaming, whatever. So it's being more intentional about what you're constantly thinking, which sounds exhausting, and it can be. It does. But really, I take the time every day, which will sound overwhelming, but every day I run through an evaluation with myself to make sure that what I was thinking and feeling and acting was getting me the results. And if it wasn't, no judgment. Wow. Well, then what do I need to think tomorrow? What do I need to be working on tomorrow? What would move the needle for me tomorrow? Not with judgment, but like, if I didn't show up for myself and didn't get the result, why? I always want to know why. And if I did, how can I do that again tomorrow or magnify that tomorrow? So it's quick when you do it every day. The problem is most of us wait until, December 31 or January when we're all hungover and we're making our resolutions to really do that work. And that's too long. It's just too long.
So what are some baby steps you can do to help change your mind when those negative thoughts pop up?
Well, so one, again, we talked about being light because this can sound very heavy. But first, just be curious with yourself. I think that's the easiest step. So you have a thought and you're like, ugh, well, let's be curious. Hey, brain, wonder why we're thinking that. Let's just give that a moment. So when you pause already, you're kind of stopping. You're stopping that. And what that stop can do is just allow you to just be present in the moment. And when you're present in a moment, you actually breathe better. And when you breathe better, you're getting more oxygen in your brain. So oxygen is the way, like for everything, right, in life. But your brain needs oxygen to create new neural pathways. And so part of the hardness of this work is we're just like this all the time. And, we stay in our chairs. And I'm like, if things are feeling hard, get up and move. If things are feeling hard, breathe. That's the first and easiest thing. But before you can even get there, you kind of need to be curious, like, wonder why this is going on right now. And so I would just invite all of you to just be a little more curious about what you're thinking and feeling.
Mhm. So, and what do you mean when you say being the CEO of your own life? And how
Well,
can
this is some of that, right? So and people listening to this podcast, they're bosses, they're doing the things, they're making all the things work in the world. And yet I don't know that we always bring that same intentionality to our life. So most of us are employees in our own lives. If you think about what an employee does in your business, let's say, like I check in, I have my tasks, I do the thing, I go home, I turn it off. Well, most of us are acting like that in our lives, where we're not really sure with intentionality why we're doing what we're working on, what moves the needle, what our energy should be, where we should be cultivating relationship and collaborations, where we shouldn't. I'm a big believer in learning from the negativity. There's a lot of people you probably don't need in your life. They're not helping you move forward. Like, let's find a way to lessen their impact. And so part of the work that I'm doing with my clients and when I consult with firms and companies is letting them know there is a way for you to all empower your employees to be CEOs, meaning they start at home. Like, how can you make empowered decisions that help make you feel and act successfully? Because when you're doing that, then the CEO's job at the business gets easier, right? You're not managing the playground politics, right? So much because people are more empowered to step into this place of accurate decision making for success.
Huh, interesting. So if somebody isn't quite sure what their mission is, how do you help them?
Great question. So I come out of the Disney School of Business so that's the first thing I want to say. So if any of you haven't read anything from Disney and the way that they do business, however your feelings are about the Disney universe, I would invite you to just maybe take that on, because I think that's a really good thing. But one of the things that they teach and they talk about, and I try to implement as well, is you really need to understand why you want to do what you're doing before you ever even understand a greater mission, right? So I want to be very impactful in the world, but in a group setting, I would say, in what way do you want to be impactful? Because we'll be honest, you can't have all the time and resources to go save every animal on the planet and rectify, unsheltered homeless and make sure every kid gets to eat what they need at school and so instead of thinking it that way is, okay, by what I feel is most valuable. So one of my values is generosity. And so how does that live into the way that I'm being in the world personally and professionally? Once you know that and you really understand your 3, 4, maybe 5 core values, then it becomes easier to understand your mission. Because at that point you can say, how do these values over here, how are they replicated in the work that I'm doing? Or are they? Because if they're not, then probably your mission isn't being fulfilled in the way that it could. So it needs some refinement. But your values honestly should never change. Your values are your values are your values. Now your mission and how you're living those out might change. It all had to change in COVID is a good example, or it might change in periods of, depending on your field of work, it might change when there's productivity issues or a supply chain issue. But your value doesn't change. So for most people, they start with the mission, which is why it's messy.
Yeah.
Instead of what is my value at the end of the day? Now, how can I implement that in my mission statement?
Gotcha. That's a good way to look about it. Figure out what's important to you and then figure out what you can do to reflect those things.
Right. And it doesn't have to be hard. I know you're a very connected human. So it might be, I'm going to get in a room, one of my ways to do this is, okay, where's my own personal board, right? So you've got a board in your business, most of you, or you've got 2 or 3 trusted people. Will also be doing the same thing in your life, because whatever's going on at home is reflected in your business. Yeah. And whatever's going on in your business is also reflected at home. So maybe you need to have your personal board of directors from your home to your business and understand how they are or are not speaking together. So that would be a first place to start, I think, is get a Carolyn around you and go, hey, when you talk about me in rooms I'm not in, what do you say about my work? Because that'll lead you pretty quickly to understand if your mission is working or not.
Very good. Very interesting. Okay, so what do you mean from move to do's to das?
So it's one of my favorite topics to talk about. So for most, I think most people, they have, I was trying to see if I have one because I don't use this method. So yeah, no, I mean, most of us have a list of 10, 12, 15 things to get done, right? Prince Charming keeps it on his phone and it's just this never ending list, which creates so much anxiety for me. And, and I will tell you, the problem is that your brain, we were talking about this earlier, only has that as input. So if you have this constant list, your brain's like, we're never off. We're never done. We didn't get everything done. It doesn't matter if you're crossing it off or not, because there's always things taking its place, right? And your brain, as I said earlier, only has the input you're giving it. So the sneaky way to get to ta-da instead of constant to do, we want ta-da energy, which is I'm done. So it's shifting it to be, you really probably can only accomplish 3 things in a day, really and truly.
Mhm.
Um, at work. And so and let's just use that as an example. So you might have, for example, I have to get this project completed. That might be a to-do list. But instead, what we really probably need to do is micro step that to-do list to say, this project is due on January 15th. So for the next 6 weeks, what are all the steps to make sure I complete that? And then every day, one of those steps is on your list, not I need to complete the thing, because your brain then cannot serve you. It cannot show up for you. It cannot help you really do constructive action to move the needle. So to really get to that kind of freeing place of I did what I needed to do today, it's really kind of harnessing your list a little bit differently and making sure that you're only giving the things attention that really move the needle that day. And I will invite you to think about this, Carolyn, is that I would hope that you have something that is about impact making on that list and not just, I got to go ship 10 boxes and return 10 phone calls. But you will attack your list with a little more gusto, let's say, if something on your list has to do with something that's impact making. So for me, I follow a formula. It's ARE, which is really, so, okay, so ARE is always on my to-do list every day. And A stands for who am I affirming today? And that could be write a note, tag them on social, quick phone call, email, something like that. And then the R is what is a resource that I could share with someone. So, we're all in rooms. We all hear somebody needs something. Even in our businesses, we may know somebody's been sick for a while or the wife was sick for a while. So a resource they might need is a gift card to order dinner. Right. And I think about that and then I make sure that happens. And then E is I want to be sure that there's always this kind of sense of excellence and empowerment. So who in my sphere of reference can I uplift? So it's not enough to affirm, right? So I'm going to affirm that you're doing this thing, but it could be on my own social. I'm shouting out someone like a Julie Jones, who's an etiquette expert or something and saying, hey, she's so great and you should be da 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 da. That's different than affirming, because affirming might be I'm sending my staff member or something.
Gotcha.
So I follow that, and that's one of my 3 items, which means I only get 2 others in a day. But that way, because that's an important value that I'm holding, and it makes it different and allows me to get to that to-da a little different, because it's a really important thing to get done that for most of us gets shoved under the rug.
Well, it's very impactful, especially to the people that you're doing it to.
Right.
You can feel good about it. All right. What is the ASK method?
Oh, ASK. So I have all these monikers. I just realized that when you're going through all this, and that sounds a little strange. And it's not what I want at all. That's not what I mean. So the ask method is really a way to think about how you can attack a project. And when I'm saying that, I mean that, all of us have meetings, let's say, or we're getting a group of people together, or maybe we're trying to do something in our own world that is something different. And so for most of us, we show up at a meeting, let's say, and in that meeting, we just don't even really understand necessarily while we're there. Okay. Are you following me here? Mm-hmm. So the ask method starts off with, okay, A stands for, all right, let's make sure that we're asking the right questions and we assume that we have the right people around us, or that I'm the right person. So A is really asset management. So when you go into any project or any meeting, you want to be sure, one, that everybody knows why they're there. I know that sounds really basic, but I cannot tell you how often people don't know why they're in the room. Or they assume they know why they're in the room. And I don't know which one is worse, honestly. Right. And so it's good to know, okay, if I'm doing this thing, I want to be sure that everybody here understands why they're in the room. So the way that you could do that is really kind of think about the needs-based part of the conversation, right? So questions like, what brought us together today? What is one goal that each of us have, for example? So it's not just me as the power broker in the room. What is one goal you all have? And make space for everybody to do that. What are some results you want? That might be another way to say that. Really clarify timeline, for example. Who already does this well is another question, because so many of us are replicating things that we don't need to be replicating. So that's the first part of the conversation when you're asking this, is really the asset part. So the S part really stands for your feeling base, which again, a lot of people in business don't give any attention to. So this is the sense, the ask. Let's get a sense of the room, okay? The feeling, making sure that everyone really has a chance to express emotions around whatever's happening. So one way to do this without it going into like a yucky session where everybody's moaning and groaning would be to say, where would you like it to be? I think it's a very powerful question.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you're excited about something or you're not. That question really gets to articulating feeling about the gap, right? That maybe isn't happening. I also like to ask the question, what will it feel like when this is completed? That's really important to know, because that's a marker. Remember that feeling, thought, action matrix that we talked about earlier? That really helps you get a control over that. And so you might even use like a scale, on a scale of 1 to 10. How compelled are you to do this? Because we assume when we bring people together, especially as bosses, we assume everybody wants to do it.
Exactly.
No, they don't. Like, so let's see, like if everyone in the room is a 2 and you need a bunch of 7, 8s, 9s, and 10s, you might need a different group around you to complete the project.
Yeah.
It really helps cut down on conflict, right? And in that kind of part of the conversation, I would really like to know, what are we doing that's already helping and what are we doing that's hurting this? Because again, that's that sense, that feeling that people are carrying into the project. The K part is really knowledge. So this is about skills. You do a lot of this, and this podcast alone is this, for example. So this is a really skills-based part of the conversation. So making sure that your team or you has the abilities, the skills, the education around what you want to do. Because let's face it, I was one of my clients is very excited about doing a thing. And between you and me and everybody listening, and this person won't know who they are if they're listening to, they're not qualified.
Yeah.
Okay. They just don't have the knowledge base to go after the thing. So what could we do instead? Well, making sure that you have the knowledge before you start something is I think one of the clunkier parts of being a leader, but good leaders make sure that that's true so that you're not misplacing resources, energy, and people. So these would be things like, what unique skills do you have for this project? And making sure that it aligns, or what can you do to influence the outcome of the project? So my client, for example, they're not the perfect person for them for this project that they want to be a part of, but they're a great person to influence it, to talk about it, to get things out of it. So we just shape it differently for that person. I also like to know, what have you already tried? Because we don't want to be, using up resources that don't need to get used. So what have we already tried? What happened? Let's know the ROI. Let's understand all the data and the metrics that go to that. And then the question that makes people squishy is, who needs to be on the team to help us? Because we all think that we are the end all be all of the world and we have all the things that we need. And most of us would go better, quicker, faster if we would find other experts to come alongside us for the work. So when you're really taking the time in a project or anything that you're starting to really understand the knowledge base and make sure you have the right people, it will help you. And honestly, another question to ask would be something around research. So what research do we need to get more ideas? Do we need to do more research for assistance? Do we need to really maybe make sure we've got clarity around this before you just dive in? And here's the caution that I will say, and then I want to hear from you here, because this needs to be a two-way conversation. I would love to know how you do this. Would be, most people, if they follow this kind of method, they do it all in one session. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, info dumping in one setting is terrible. So you just need to let people know the scope. Yeah. Saying, okay, at this meeting, we're going to cover our assets, and I'm going to be asking you these questions. So please come prepared. And when that's done, whether it took 10 minutes or an hour, you're done with the meeting. And then the next meeting can be more of the other components. That now let's talk about the sense of the project. Now let's talk about the knowledge. Most of us compile it into one meeting, which is why it's just really, really hard to get any movement or perspective shared in an honest way.
Well, it's overwhelming when you're sharing so many ideas. Well, if you have a big, especially if you have a big project that you're working on, and you're
Yep.
trying to cover it all in one meeting, it's not very productive.
No, it's not. So what are some ways that you do that?
So, like when I meet with my team, we have team meetings like twice a month, and so we'll start talking about ideas, and usually it's first a pitch. Hey, I want to do this. What do you think?
Right.
Right. So I'm really kind of looking for feedback on what the next step should be. I'm very much a visionary,
Right.
but all the people that are in my management team are very much how people, which is great because
Yes.
then
Good job, you.
I want to do this, but I don't know how. So help me
Mhm.
figure it out.
Right.
So, which is, helpful. Sometimes we get stuck in the weeds, talking about things that don't really move the needle, or sometimes we lack follow up.
We all do. Right.
It's like,
But I think if you can start implementing some of the, like, just cover the A, then just cover the S, then just cover the K. One, your meetings will be shorter, and two, like you said, it makes follow up so much easier because you're only having to follow up on this one little nugget of the thing. And I find that accountability goes higher for sure for people on my team anyway, and that just helps the project feel better from start to finish.
absolutely. All right. So tell me about some of the services that you offer.
Oh goodness. So, well, I do a lot of, I've been seeding some of those here. So I do a lot of coaching. So, and I want to be clear to say coaching, not mentoring. I do consulting. That's different. Consulting is I'm coming in and I'm uh, telling you what to do and then I leave. Coaching is I'm going to usually consult with you first, hear about your problems or what you're trying to do, and then coach you over a timeline.
Gotcha.
So that looks like for companies, for example, and small businesses, that usually might be an intensive session with me. So it might be over 90 days, several hours over those 90 days with some deliverables and things like that. But what I do most right now is coaching over a year.
Okay.
So for women specifically, in this particular program called the Sparkle Factor. So they commit to 1 year of work with me, which is a call every week and a program that you're going to, challenges along the way. You come to a retreat with me, an all-inclusive retreat, where we're really diving in deep with methodology and ROI and seeing what's not working so we can change strategy quickly. And through that process, I think that is sustainable.
Mhm.
Because we've all worked with a consultant that it was great. And then 3 months later, we're like, we're not even doing that anymore. Right. And I really want to be known for making sure that things are sustainable because it's just, you could spend a lot of money, right? Doing things and listening to people and implementing. But where I want you to get ROI on your money is you to be able to self-coach yourself. So eventually you need to be able to make it work. You need to have it so ingrained in you that you don't need that person anymore. You're just implementing constantly and it doesn't feel hard. It feels easy. It feels natural. And so I think the best coaches and consultants are that they're constantly working themselves out of a job.
Mm.
So when you say what services I do, I'm constantly working myself out of a job. That's what I do. And then I speak on the side. So I do a lot of keynote speaking. So that's really kind of the world that I offer and a lot of different ways to access that.
So tell me about some of your favorite client success stories.
Ooh, let's talk about Julie. So Julie came to me 2.5 years ago. She was working for a services company for people that had started like plumbing, electrical, those kinds of things, and was a mentor for them for a new business. And she was miserable and upset and sad and didn't like her life, and her life was going up in flames and all the things. And so she came to one of my conferences. And after that conference said, okay, I don't even know what I need, but I know I need you. I hear that a lot. Because again, we talk about mind first, and not being present for ourselves. And so we worked together for 2 years, and within the first 90 days, she quit her job, started her own business. Now she's working for places like Bank of America, is a featured speaker. She is coaching people in etiquette and how to really show up for businesses and the people they serve in a different way, and is killing it. She's writing education curriculum to go in schools so that we get young adults quicker, faster, to really help them show up for themselves. And part of her marketing is around Gen Z. So really helping employers understand a new generation and how you can talk, how to answer the phone, those kinds of things. She's one of my favorites for sure, because she's an implementer and an action taker.
Gotcha.
Another client that I have recently worked with is a city. So, and currently still in that relationship. So where I'm a consultant in the city and we're going department by department, and we're really diving into this kind of CEO way and how you're empowering with decision making. And so it doesn't matter what they do, whether they are in, HR, or whether they're in financial services or, business development, doesn't matter, because I'm trying to help them and their teams really understand, like, the ask method, how we can be in relationship together, how we communicate at a deeper level, and what the ripple effect of that is when you start understanding that kind of thinking, feeling matrix. And so those are great because they're kind of short stints. It's like 90 days with this team, and then 90 days with this team, and then 90 days. But then you begin to see the impact of that in the city, or even in these leaders, and how it's just, to me, it's truly remarkable to watch when that light bulb goes off for somebody and they're like, oh, I get it now. And, or they text me and they're like, I had this really hard conversation and it wasn't terrible. And I'm like, okay, yay, now we're doing it, I think those are my favorite success stories for sure.
All the growth. And I mean, I think that's kind of what we're all here to do, is figure things out, grow along, help,
Well, I would hope so. I think the people that are attracted to me usually have a big heart. They're heart-centered business owners, and they really have this arm of service about them. And those people can be taken advantage of pretty quickly, I think, in the marketplace. And so really trying to find someone who's ethical can be hard, and who's not going to charge you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And so, I think those people are remarkable. And I love your show and how you're really helping to kind of pour into people with actionable tips every single show. Like, you can go do this one, like, they may give you 30 minutes of content, but there's at least one thing in that show for someone that was listening that time to go do. And it's really, really remarkable.
Well, thank you so much. So if people wanted to find out more about you, where would they go?
I think my website, because that's all the things. Like, there's the freebies rotate on there. You can see how to do it on social, and it's real easy. So it's Suzanne Castle, like a princess, SuzanneCastle.com. And there's all kinds of ways to work with me. And there's videos. I do free training every Tuesdays on YouTube. So there's a lot of different ways to interact.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show.
Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for the way you're showing up and helping people get shit done.
Thank you.